You don't have bad upper chest genetics, you just don't train it correctly. In today's video, I'll share 3 game-changing strategies that is guaranteed to blow up this area, starting with the most important, tightness. See, you have been taught that arching on an incline bench transforms the exercise into a flat bench, similar to how many powerlifters arch on a flat, turning it into a decline, where the chin is lower than the chest. You can't even see the guy's face from a front angle. Well, the same applies to inclines. If your chin is not higher than your upper chest, then from an absolute angle perspective, not the angle of the bench itself, you're doing a flat press. And this explains why so many people are lifting similar loads to their flat bench. Put it like this, if you're incline pressing between 185 to 205 for reps, yet your flat bench is only 225, aka 2 plates, that tells me right there's something off about your incline pressing form. Because what I want to emphasize is that 15 degrees can be an excellent upper chest builder, provided that you're doing it flat backed with little scapular retraction. You are letting them move freely. Also, there's an anthropometry concern, usually the size and tilting of the rib cage. Therefore, it goes back once again to the idea of your chin being higher than your upper chest. And this is why we often recommend 30 degrees. It seems to be that sweet spot that works for basically everyone. But that 30 degrees also means that you need to be doing it without being overly tight. Because if you try to stay tight, which is a cue that you've probably been doing all your life, you'll just arch into 15 degrees. And so it's still a great overall chest builder. We can argue it's an alternative to deficit benching, but it's not the best exercise for the upper chest, unless you're willing to do it with no ego, just laying flat. And this is what the data seems to be pointing to. The fact that when you go to a 45 to 60 degree incline press, there's proportionally a lot more shoulders. But again, this assumes that you're not arching, which is the X factor in this discussion. Just like you can arch from a low incline down to a flat, so can you arch from a high incline down to a medium optimal incline. Meaning, you have a choice here, but you need to know what's going on. Either you do that perfect 30 degree incline bench, but you're not gonna arch. There's gonna be no tightness. You're just gonna press dummy style. Or you actually use the 45 degree classic incline bench, but you arch like a motherfucker. Now, you might be tempted to just say, yeah, I'll stick to 30. And that's fine. But let me ask you a question. If you're doing a barbell incline bench, do you even have access to that setup, or are you willing to do it? Because you need to bring an adjustable bench to a power rack and adjust it to that angle. And by the way, you should be using a leveling app on your phone to determine what it is. Because I see a lot of guys saying, yeah, I'm doing 30 degree incline bench, and they're actually doing 15. Or people say, yeah, I'm doing 45, and they're at freaking 30. So what I can tell you is that the preset stations, 9 out of 10 times, are 45 degrees. And that's probably what you will default to, just because we tend to be lazy as lifters. We want what is convenient. If there's 5 incline benching stations versus a power rack and a bench that you gotta drag over from one side of the gym to the other, what are you gonna default to? I already know. People cannot fool me anymore. They want what is convenient. So therefore, if you're stuck using a 45 degree bench, or rather it's more convenient for you, instead of doing the 30 with no tightness, why not do 45, but arch so hard that it brings you down to 30? Because here's the thing about arching. It pre-stretches the pecs and allows you to better feel them in the bottom. Just think about trying to stretch your pec on a doorway. Are you gonna lean into it with your shoulders roll forward, or are you gonna retract and really open up? So it's all about that opening up, resisting the puppet master, chest up towards the ceiling, keeping it there, right? And it maximizes tightness, which will enhance your stability, plus standardizes form. So I would argue that this is the safer way to incline press, especially if you tend to feel your front delts way too much. Now, am I saying that letting your scaps move freely is bad? Absolutely not. This is what we do in the calisthenics world, and there is this thing called the scapular human rhythm. You can adapt to that style of pressing, but don't do it on 45 degrees, and know that there is a higher risk of injury, even though no position is inherently dangerous. You just have to have greater tissue capacity to handle that. So I think powerlifters are 100% correct that being tight, having a massive strong back that can hold that position is generally safer. And again, I'm not trying to fearmonger you into anything, but this is what the best lifters in the world are doing, and I'll continue training that way and recommending it. On average. Now, if you want a little hybrid, you can retract and protract at the top, which actually works quite well in incline benching. So we have a safer press that better stretches the pecs and puts you in the perfect angle that this is where you're gonna use anyway. Now, if you're doing an incline dumbbell press, well, I would say this still applies. See, I actually learned this cue from Jared Feather IFBB Pro when I trained Renaissance periodization. We went to that preset 45-degree station, and he told me straight up that it's better to start from a high angle and arch the fuck out of it down to a lower angle than to start low but have no tightness. Because the angle is the exact same. The upper chest biasing is equivalent, but all the other factors that I mentioned are not. And again, just for the stretching alone, this is worth considering. Yo, I love that reaching cue. It makes such a difference.
Cool, right?
Oh my God. So you like arching on the incline?
A shitload.
Really,
yeah. Yeah. That's why we have varying degrees, right?
Exactly.
I can arch really fucking hard on a high incline and the degrees change a little bit, but the stretch is so much better for the pecs.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's better to do a higher incline and arch to an angle lower
100%.
than just keeping it low, but you're not tight.
Because the arch sets up your chest. Yeah. It sets up your scaps. It does everything to align you. It also collapses you down so that there's no movement possible. Because if you start with a flat back and then as you press, you start arching more, it's going to change the shit while you're doing it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of weird. We like to lock into the technique. Once we're locked in, we stay in.
Use the pecs. Beautiful, man.
Go.
Beautiful.
So that is your choice. And in my opinion, 15-degree incline benching is the riskiest option of all. It's a great accessory to the flat bench, but I don't think it's best for upper chest. Now, for those who say, oh, it's awkward to lock out at the top of a higher incline when you're tight, I would say that it's not, and you could protract, like I said earlier, but if you don't want to, if you want to stay tight the whole time, well, why not just do length and partials? They might actually be superior for hypertrophy. So you can literally just do bottom-up reps, don't lock out at the top, problem solved. It's not like the converging aspect matters much anyway when we're talking about the barbell version. So you do whatever you want, but that's the key. Analyzing the absolute angle of the exercise, not the angle of the bench. So 30 degrees is best, but that means you need to be at 30 degrees. Your chin needs to be higher than your upper chest. You, yes, it goes back to you. So as long as you're honest with yourself, you should be all set for any incline press moving forward. Now my second tip relates to how you perform the incline barbell press, which is going to look different from a traditional flat bench, especially if you use the powerlifting form. See, you do not want to be pressing low on the chest or resembling a traditional J curve where it's low and then high but not too far back. No, you actually want to mimic more so of a vertical line, aka high up on the upper chest, the clavicle, guillotine style, or at least closer to it. Please do not be bringing the barbell down to your nipple line, because this will actually make your leverages worse and doesn't stretch the pecs to the same extent. Because on an incline bench, if you bring the barbell low, the sternum angle is more pronounced by comparison. What I mean is if you're laying on a flat bench, whether you bring it a little bit lower or higher, you're not affecting the stretching portion that much. It's just having worse leverages. But here, you're taking away from the range of motion, and it's not the best way to press off an incline. And I would actually argue the same thing for a 60-degree press or even 75 degrees. You do not want to be pressing the bar away from you. And this is something I learned as someone who has hypermobile elbows. The Smith machine, of all things, was instrumental in teaching me how to press correctly, which is not necessarily flaring out your elbows, but at least bringing the bar higher up. That is the most important thing I could tell you. And again, I'm going to give credit to Pete Kacharian for really opening up my eyes on this one, because for years I was trying to incline bench like a powerlifter, and it was not the best for hypertrophy. I had horrible lockout issues, and the stretch on the upper chest was not to the same level. And if we know that the bottom portion is most important on this exercise, then just bring it up. No, you will not destroy your shoulders. Heck, you can eventually work up to flaring out to the sides. Regardless, I just want to encourage you to assume more so of a vertical line kind of pressing form. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you actually do want to be pressing further back. You can have a lot less mislifts, and you might get way more reps this way. Like, I was shocked when I started bringing the bar towards my face, like literally all the way back, what you were taught not to do on a flat bench. You want to do this on an incline press. It's the exception. And again, it's no coincidence that all the golden era bodybuilders did their incline pressing this way. They weren't doing machine training or even had much understanding of biomechanics at all, but they intuitively figured out that this is the way to do it. Higher up, and you press back, which leads to a superior lockout and a greater stretch. Try it. I'm telling you, you will never go back to incline pressing low as if you're doing a powerlifter style bench. They are not the same exercise. Please stop treating it that way. I made that mistake for years, and I always wondered why the exercise didn't feel right for me. Well, now I know why. Oh, and for those who are going to criticize the fact that the upper chest fibers run at a 45-degree angle, and therefore bringing the bar higher up doesn't align you the best, for one, this goes back to the converging effect, which is not why you're doing the incline press. And also, when you rotate the humerus, the upper chest fibers become more horizontal. So this is a non-issue. I mean, you have a choice, and I would say this is more applicable to the dumbbell version, but with a barbell, it doesn't fucking matter. So with dumbbells, you can do at 45 and then converge upwards. But again, you still want to press back, but with a barbell, where the bottom portion matters most, well, since you're taking away stretch by bringing it low down, you want to raise it higher up. And again, you're not going to be completely internally rotated like this either. So the alignment is really not much of an issue. I'm not saying this doesn't matter, but it more so applies to cable exercises or machines that need to be designed a certain way. And again, whether you're pressing high or low, it doesn't mean the upper arm angle must accommodate that perfectly. You can still have that corkscrew effect going on, and it'll still be in the same spot. Now, my third and final tip is to actually change the way you flat bench to get more upper chest involvement, which you might think is doing the guillotine style, but no, I'm not gonna recommend that for today. Instead, do the opposite, the reverse grip bench press. Now, before you click off because you falsely believe it's dangerous, no, it's logically safer than a regular bench press. And I can prove it to you with pure facts. With the reverse grip, you are forced into external rotation. You cannot flare your elbows out even if you wanted to. You're locked in, and it's very easy to get tight, similar to a Yates row. You know when you're rowing low down and you feel the lats? It's the same thing here. You bring the bar inwards with the perfect elbow tuck and then either pressing straight out or slightly back. The bar will never come directly towards your face. Actually, you can't do that because your mouth is aligned with the bar during the unrack. That's how you get it out of the rack. So that's another lie exposed. People saying that it's impossible to take out. No, you're just not laying down correctly. And then the other thing is, if you use the talon grip, so I'm not suggesting that you have to do a full underhand. No, if you just stick it in between these two fingers, like this, and then you grab, okay? You're gonna be at a very slight angle, semi-supinated, which solves the wrist issue and makes the unrack just as easy as a flat bench, or comparable enough. And it's very secure, it is not falling out of your hands. And even if it did fall out of your hands, which it won't, I've done 365 on this exercise, if you bench with the safeties, and the stations do have this now, you don't even have to go to power rack anymore. It lands on your chest, you deflate, come out clean, no worries. So that's my little rant about safety, if you made it this far. I'm just tired of guys being soft for an exercise that is objectively safer, physiologically speaking. It's so much easier on the shoulders, to the point where guys who've had rotator cuff injuries, who can no longer bench heavy the normal way, can still press heavy in reverse. We've seen this time and time again. I'm not gonna repeat myself. Please watch this full guide on the reverse grip bench press that I made a couple months ago. All this to say, from a muscular biasing standpoint, according to EMG data, there's 30% more upper chest activation. And yes, this logic can be applied to any press. It doesn't just have to be with a barbell. You can do it with dumbbells, provided you're not in the way, and you can do it with rings. Actually, RTO dips are one of the few dips that allow you to get upper chest. Think about this. Dips are known to build the lower pec, yet the RTO will also build the upper. Insanity. But the point is, you get a much better contraction in your upper chest, which is what the EMG data is actually showing, because in the lengthened position, that's not where it's going to be more active, right? So it's more so to the midpoint where you feel it kicking in. And this is exactly what happens when we do a similar exercise in an isolation sense known as the low to high cable crossover. If I told you to squeeze your upper chest or to isolate, what would you do? You would have your hand low down here, and you would flex it up, right? You feel that contraction? I'm not doing an incline press. I don't have to be up here, right? I don't have to be pressing high. Just being leveled with the upper chest is enough to feel that contraction. So that's another way to hit the area without having to do inclines. And it's especially useful for home gym guys who only have a flat bench. Or maybe you've done a lot of inclines already. You don't want to hit that angle again because maybe it's too much front delt at this point. You're fatigued. But you still crave that biasing effect. Well, let's say you did incline dumbbell bench, then incline barbell press, right? Your third exercise can be a reverse grip bench. You're still gonna build a ton of mass everywhere. It's equally as good as a normal flat bench, but you get slightly more upper chest. Seems like a good deal to me. Plus, it corrects torso dominance because by having the arms that locked in, it also biases the triceps. So what you have is an upper chest and triceps builder. Actually, for me, I feel it even more in my tris than my upper chest, but I still believe it's a good mass builder for the shelf. That's a good alternative to the incline close grip bench press. I would say that's the most comparable variation we have. But just to blend up your system to avoid redundancy, this is another great variation. And again, it lowers overuse of the shoulder joints. That cannot be stressed enough. So for that reason alone, it's worth changing up the way you bench press. And with that said, I'm done for today. There's obviously a lot more upper chest tips I can share. I made all the mistakes over the years. And if you want a part 2, let me know. But in the meantime, these cues got you set.